Good morning, youth. I hope everybody has on their comfiest pair of pajamas and a nice hot cup of coffee. Um, Hope everybody's comfortable as we get right into this. I wish I could be wearing my pajamas right now, but you probably don't want to see your pastor in his Elmo PJs. That might ruin my credibility somewhat. I don't know. If you guys want it, leave a comment down below after this. Uh, And I don't know, maybe if you leave enough comments, I can convince Pastor John to let me wear my PJs in this next one. Um, so we're going to be starting a 4-week series called Light Faith in an Anxious World, and it's a series that deals with mental health and anxiety and depression. This is a topic that I've wanted to discuss for a while, and I know you guys have wanted to discuss for a while, and it just so happens that it kind of lines up perfectly with this very stress inducing situation that we find ourselves in, known as the coronavirus pandemic. So it's very topical right now. Before we get started, I just want to make a quick note that um, often the church has had a difficult relationship in knowing how to address mental health issues. And for a lot of people, it can seem like why why does this book that was written 2,000 years ago, how could it possibly have anything to say um, to my mental health right now? I mean, they didn't even have the concepts of mental health that we do today. But what I have found in studying scripture and studying the science on this stuff is that there's a lot of overlap in how uh, in knowing healthy ways to deal with our mental health and our anxiety, which makes sense, right? I mean, God created us. He knows us. He isn't surprised by anxiety and depression. And in fact, we can find in Scripture tons of principles to deal with these things in a healthy way that line up with the modern science today. I mean, if I won't give you uh, too many, I won't give you guys like a bunch of examples, but I found this Times article magazine a couple of years ago, and I hold on to it because if you can't read the title, it says "The Signs of Happiness." And I hold on to it because it's amazing to me. Like 90% of the scientific advice that they give in here on how to experience more joy, how do you reduce your anxiety and your depression, lines up with what the Bible has been telling us for 2,000 years. And so I just wanted to get that out of the way before we get started. But let's jump into this. Um, it's and another kind of crazy coincidence. I had no idea when I was planning this that Pastor John Allen was going to be discussing the passage from Mark that he did last week on Jesus in the boat with his disciples, and that's the passage we're going to be going through today. And it's again just kind of like one of those crazy coincidences. I don't know. It's almost like God's timing or something, right? If you haven't watched that sermon, by the way, video's still up. Go watch it. But let's dive into this. So this is a passage. This is Mark 4:35 through 41. If you have your Bibles on you, take a moment, pause this video, turn to that passage, join us when you're there. Here's how it goes. Later that day, when evening came, Jesus said to them, "Let's cross over to the other side of the lake." They left the crowd and took him in a boat just as he was. Other boats followed along. Gale force winds arose, and waves crashed against the boat, so that the boat was swamped. But Jesus was in the rear of the boat, sleeping on a pillow. I love that little detail. It's like just let you know that he had a pillow with him. They woke him up and said, "Teacher, don't you care that we're drowning?" He got up and gave orders to the wind and said to the lake, "Silence, be still." The wind settled down and there was a great calm. Jesus asked them, "Why are you frightened? Don't you have faith yet?" Overcome with awe, they said to each other, "Who then is this? Even the wind and sea obey him." There's another story later in Mark where again, the disciples are caught in a storm, and Jesus is passing by on the lake, walking on water casually as he does. Um, and again, they're terrified, and again, he gets into the boat with them. Um, a lot of us right now, the reason I share the story is because a lot of us right now feel like we're in an unsteady boat, right? Um, the coronavirus is definitely causing us to feel that way, but for a lot of us, it's just one more thing on top of a long list of things causing us anxiety. And so here's what I want you to do. Go ahead, pause this video in a few moments, not yet, right? Or you'll miss the instructions. But I would like you to take 2 minutes just to list all of the things that are causing you anxiety right now. Uh, so pause this video, do that real fast, and then when we come back, I'll explain why I had you do that. Ready, go. Okay, I hope you did it. Otherwise, you just experienced an awkward pause and me pointing, doing a finger gun at the camera awkwardly. So here's why I had you do that. A lot of the times, we don't take time to recognize the things that are causing us anxiety when this is an important part in dealing with it, right? Like anxiety is our body's way of telling us that something's off, whether in our environment, in our lives, in our relationships. Um, it's our body's way of telling us that we need to address that there are things that we need to be focused on and addressing. Um, what's interesting to me about the story in Mark is that Jesus doesn't do anything until the disciples bring it to him, until they name the thing that is causing them anxiety and stress. And I'm not, maybe I'm pushing the passage too far, but I do think it's very interesting that throughout the Gospels, we find that Jesus, who let's remember is God, he knows everything, often invites people to tell him what is hurting, what is stressing, what is causing them anxiety before he heals them. Um, and I think that this is because there's something important about naming those things, about recognizing those things. Uh, it's the same with anxiety, right? Like it's a lot of us um, choose to react to our anxiety rather than to respond to it. When we respond to it, we listen to what our bodies are trying to tell us. Anxiety is not in and of itself a bad thing, but it can become a harmful thing in our lives when instead of listening to it and responding to those things, we react to it and we feel those feelings. We're like, oh, I don't like those, gotta get rid of them, right? And we can develop these very unhealthy coping mechanisms trying to deal with it. Sometimes people use alcohol or drugs to try to suppress it. Other times you just try to crush those feelings down, right? Ignore it. I know in my life, my tendency when I start feeling anxious is I ignore it. I push it down. I fill my life with productivity and busyness so that I can focus on that instead of these underlying issues that are causing me anxiety. But none of those things help, right? Like they just the issue, the underlying issue is still there. It's still unresolved, and it just leads to further problems and can even lead to depression, right? Um, so a lot of so what we need to do instead is um, I think one of the things that the Bible is teaching us to do in dealing with these things is to learn to listen and to respond rather than react. To ask ourselves, what is God? Where is God in this situation? In this unsteady boat that I'm in, where is God in this? Where has Jesus stepped into the boat? And then to ask, what is God or my anxiety trying to tell me right now? What are the things that I need to be listening and responding to in this moment? And so what I want you to do right now is you have that list of all the things that are causing you anxiety. If you're like me, your list is like this long. It looks like a CVS receipt. If you've seen those memes, you know what I'm talking about. Um, take pause this video again and take another 2 minutes to look over that list and ask yourself, where is God working in the middle of this? And what is God trying to tell me? What is my anxiety trying to tell me uh, in the middle of this situation? So pause this, take 2 moments to do that while I take a sip of water. Cool, we're back. Thanks for joining me again. So like we said, and this is not just what I believe is a biblical principle, but also what the science tells us, that rather than developing these unhealthy coping mechanisms of trying to ignore or suppress these feelings, we actually need to be listening to it. We actually need to name the things that are causing us to feel this anxiety and respond to those things. And not all of those things can be easily responded to, but we'll get to that later. We're not. I'm not trying to tell you how to like completely overcome this in like a week, right? Or in this 10-minute video. But this is a good first step, and I hope that this week you'll begin to practice this. That you'll begin to name these things, and you'll begin to recognize where God is with you in the midst of this, and to know that God is not one who sleeps through our troubles. He's not one who just walks by our troubles, but he actually gets into the unsteady boat with us to give us peace and to help us to hear his voice and experience his presence. So here's the 3 things I want to leave you guys with that you can do this week. And these are things, again, this very brief overview. This is a 4-week series. There's a lot more to unpack, but just for now, 3 things I want to leave you guys with. And when you're feeling that anxiety, how to respond to it rather than react to it. And it's to look up, look inside, and to look around. Look up just means that instead of letting those anxious thoughts consume us, or rather than ignoring it, we actually pause in the middle of it and we seek God's wisdom and we talk to other people who are walking with us in our faith to help us to respond rather than react. Look inside. This one, same thing, right? It just means that we think and we reflect on where God is at work inside of us. What is this anxiety trying to tell us? What do we need to see within ourselves that this anxiety or maybe God is trying to draw attention to? And then finally, we look around, and this is all this is that we recognize that we are not alone in our anxiety, and we're willing to look outside of ourselves to see others who are struggling with this, so that we can be a source of support and strength to them, and bring peace to them in the midst of this anxious world that we live in. So it's look up, look inside, look around. Uh, hold on to that list that I made you guys write. We're actually going to be going through that in our small groups. That's all I really have for you guys this week. Like I said, we're going to be unpacking this more down the road. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about. It's very close to my heart. And so I hope that you guys will be here for that. If you want to know how you can continue to stay connected and stay engaged in what the youth group is doing during this pandemic, go ahead, grab your phone, follow us on our Instagram. It's at FM Carrollton Youth, at FM Carrollton Youth. Make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe. This isn't YouTube. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I didn't plan this outro, but I love you guys. I hope to see you soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. Peace out.